Well, yeah, let's talk about their master plan if they win.
Well, I think the human race, and this is going to be painting with a very broad brush, but it's based on many years of looking at the subject from every conceivable angle. I'm totally convinced that the human race is being mutated according to a scientific method. We know that there has been experiments done as far back as the 1920s and 30s of trying to crossbreed animals with humans. The Germans were doing that. There was movies made back in 1938-39 with Charles Lawton called The Island of Lost Souls. 1965, Burt Lancaster remade it called The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Let me stop you and back up what you're saying. Endgame starts getting into this. Endgame 2, or whatever I'm going to call it, will fully get into it. But all the main eugenicists, Margaret Sanger, H.G. Wells, the Princes, Prince Bernhard, said they're going to make two different species, and then BBC, while I was making the film, showed this little goblin creature that we're going to be, and then they're going to be these beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, and they hate us so much, they want to make themselves better than us, so they actively want to kill most of us, and then have a clown goblin creature that they call the old humans that they laugh at.
That's exactly right. That's what I was getting to.
Okay, go ahead. I wanted to back up what you're saying, because that is so all of your research comes to the fact we know the GMO food's changing our genetics. We know we're genetically getting dumber, not just chemically. Right. Go ahead. This is massive, folks.
That's right. That's what I've been looking at for 48 years, the complete transformation and transmutation of the human spirit into a whole new kind of creature. This gets into a subject which I have been fascinated with all my life, about how to crossbreed animals and humans, and don't think it hasn't happened.
Oh, they now admit they've done it. They now admit human chimpanzee clones, human cow clones.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And we know that the Germans were working on this as far back as the 1920s, and, of course, Ivan G. Pavlov and A.R. Luria and Pavlov were working with their Pavlovian dogs, understanding how to cause people to think what they, that whole Pavlovian dog thing was part of the whole eugenics program to completely redesign the human being so that one day, ultimately one day, the human race will be so profoundly stupid and so awesomely ignorant that they will just eat and reproduce.
But that's what George Orwell said is in 1984 by removing the language with chemicals. That's what Brave New World is about. And Huxley said, look, my brother runs UNESCO. This book is real. This is what the eugenicists are doing to you. And they've already got us almost trapped where they're drinking poison fluoride. They're taking the injections. They're laughing at us while they do it. In my gut, in my psyche, the full power of my subconscious mind, thousands of times more powerful than my limited cerebral cortex. In my bones, I know they're waging war against the species. And then lo and behold, I go to their own documents. They vitriolically say they're poisoning us, killing us, euthanizing us right now. With the nutrition we've been getting, we should be living to 130. They are waging war on us, and I hadn't even got into Jordan Maxwell's own research on this, and I say, what's the master plan? And he says to dumb us down into a new suboid species, and you read the eugenicists, you read the government plans, they are now doing it, inserting us into a matrix. You're being sucked into your iPhone, sucked into your video games, you're already interfacing, I've got to have you up very soon, Jordan, to do a whole show on this and how they admit they're doing it. And then I've had elitists tell me, Alex, you warned them, and look, they don't even care. That's the ultimate cop-out. They have done everything for generations to dumb us down and to turn us into this. The National Banking Association, 100 years ago, put out memos saying, buy up the media, dumb everybody down. They're reading too much. They're chemically attacking all of you. Now, we've talked about the main ruling philosophy, whether it's a Chinese communist commander or a German bank owner or the Rothschilds, they all are adherents and worship this Teutonic/Zionist system, and as you said, nothing to do with the Jews. And that's evidence. Mainstream history about Hitler was obsessed with Kabbalah and all the rest of it. Now Madonna and everybody else is. That's a part of it. But I want to spend 5 minutes before we take calls on their game plan currently and what you think we're going to see in the next few years, and then more on their master plan. How you see them implementing. They're coming out with laws now of if you've got a genetic disorder, you can't have children. They say what an order is. They're going to drug half of the kids in the schools. They're admittedly drugging the water. I mean, they're hitting us from every angle. And then any ideas you have of us struggling out of this?
Well, I know. I'm at a loss for words because it's such a huge tsunami of ignorance that's sweeping the world, and an avalanche of attack on the human species by these people at the very tops. It's like I was saying before, it's not even political. It's not even philosophical. It's truly demonic because they were crossbreeding, as I was saying before, crossbreeding animals and humans as far back as the 20s, and probably earlier than that, in the 1800s, that they were talking about such kind of technology that was coming. And when you start looking at how these people are redesigning the human creature so that we will be able to at least have the intelligence to do a particular job that is given to us, but our brains will be blank. We can see that now everywhere in schools.
Oh, my God.
Here's a great quotation from a book. It's on my website, been there for years. It's from the book called The New Totalitarians by Roland Humphrey. And in the book, he says this, that Aldous Huxley, and Julian Huxley was his father. Huxley,
you're right, I keep calling him a brother, yeah.
Yes, that's what it was, his brother. And so Julian Huxley said something very interesting, and it was quoted in the New Totalitarian book. The quote is this: as political and economic freedom diminishes, sexual freedom tends compensatingly to increase, and the dictator, unless he needs cannon fodder or families with which to colonize empty or conquered territories, will do well to encourage that freedom, in conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of narcotics, the movies, the radio, and it will help to reconcile his subjects to the servitude, which is now their fate. And here's another quote, important. So Alex Frazier Taylor said, he was born 1742, died in 1813, said this, quote, the average age of the world's great civilizations has been around 200 years. These nations have progressed through this sequence from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from great courage to liberty, and from liberty to abundance, from abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to complacency, from complacency to apathy, and from apathy back to dependence, and from dependence back to bondage.
Yeah, let me read you Bertrand Russell, who they claim is a great liberal who said exterminate the blacks. Gradually, by selective breeding, the congenital differences between rulers and ruled will increase until they become almost different species. A revolt of the plebes would become as unthinkable as an organized insurrection of sheep against the practice of eating mutton. Now, that's exactly what you've been talking about. Here's another one. Although the science will be diligently studied, it will be rigidly confined to the governing class. The populace will be allowed to know how its convictions were generated. When the technique has been perfected, every government that has been in charge of education for a generation will be able to control its subjects securely without the need of armies or policemen.